Hi y'all, it's Curious Raven, back with another true crime story. This time, will be about a little girl named Zara Baker. This crime was worldwide. Everyone knew about the murder of Zara Baker. I do want to give a warning that this story today does tell a little bit of gruesome details. Please be advised and watch at your own expense. Zara Baker was born November 16th in 1999. Her dad is named Adam Baker. Her mom, Emily, gave her up to her father. Her father, Adam, had full custody of Zara. They lived in Australia. In 2004, Adam worked at a sugar mill in Queensland. Zara, at the age of 5 to 6, was diagnosed with bone cancer. And people that knew her said that she was so full of life and rambunctious and didn't let things get her down. She fought the bone cancer in 2005. Not even 3 years later, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Well, guess what, people? She fought that too. And she won. Due to all of the chemotherapy that Zara went through when she was younger, it took her hearing from her. She had to wear hearing aids. Also, it left one of her legs amputated, and she had half of her lung cut out. I would say this little girl went through so much as it was in her life. When this happened to her, she was only 10. Just think, at age 8, she beat 2 types of cancers. That is a miracle to me. After she beat the lung cancer, her cancer went into remission in the year 2008. A little before this, Zara's father, Adam, met Elisa Fairchild on a dating website, a IMVU website, and Elisa Fairchild will visit Adam in Queensland, where he was working at the sugar mill, and they were soon married. Elisa, Adam didn't know this, but she was previously married 6 times and was still married at the time that she supposedly married Adam. It was around this time that Zara's cancer in 2008 went into remission, and all 3 of them moved to the United States. They all moved to North Carolina. Zara went to public school for a little bit, but a couple teachers noticed that there was some child abuse going on with Zara, and they're implicating that Elisa was the one that was abusing her, and supposedly there was many neighbors claimed that Elisa was physically and mentally abusive and neglected Zara. When Zara was in the 4th grade, Zara went to school with a black eye. A black eye. Come on. To me, also, that the father had to know there was some type of abuse going on, because how could he not notice the black eye? He should have protected his daughter. I know that sounds mean, but it's true in some sort of way. Elisa had 3 other children from 2 different other marriages. A daughter born from a previous boyfriend, and a son and a daughter from a previous marriage. Now, supposedly they have history on Elisa that she has been investigated multiple times before this stuff with Zara. Zara was her stepdaughter, but supposedly Elisa was abusing her as well. There was many investigations by the Department of Social Services in regards to Elisa's own biological kids. I don't think the father knew this. It's kind of like this, a piece of crap monster hid who she was from Adam. A 911 call was made by Elisa on October 9th, 2010 at 5:30 a.m., reporting a fire in the back of the family's residence in Hickory. When the police came for the reported fire, there was a ransom note and a smell of gasoline coming from Adam's company's truck, a Chevy Tahoe. In a second 911 phone call made, when Zara was reported missing at 2 p.m. on the same day, Adam Baker explained that during a fire in their backyard, a $1 million ransom note was found on his company truck the night before, addressed to Adam's boss and landlord, Mark Coffey. Adam explained that they called 911 earlier that day about the fire and implied that whoever started the fire may have done so in order to distract the family, in order to take Zara. Adam explained the proportion kidnapper mistakenly confused Zara for Mr. Coffey's daughter. Mark Coffey's daughter was unharmed and with her family. Adam stated. Adam said the last time he saw his daughter was at 2:30 a.m. Apparently Adam left for work early in the morning and did not return until after Zara went to sleep. Elisa failed a polygraph test she had taken earlier in the investigation. She was asked if she had hurt Zara, if she knew of anyone who would harm her, and if she knew who wrote the ransom note. On October 10, 2010, search and rescue dogs were sent to search the Bakers' house and cars. The dogs gave positive alerts to the scent of human remains on both of the Bakers' cars, the Chevy Tahoe and sedan. The police took swabs of what they thought may be blood from the car. On October 10, 2010, Elisa was also arrested for various crimes, which included communicating threats, writing bad checks, larceny, and driving with a revoked license, crimes unrelated to Zara. Elisa was then, after she was jailed, charged with obstruction of justice after admitting that she wrote the ransom note, which led the police in a different direction. In October 2010, the judge raised Elisa's bond from $40,000 to $65,000 at a bond hearing, believing that she was a flight risk. Amber Fairchild, Elisa's daughter, testified at the hearing and said her mother told her she was thinking of leaving North Carolina the day before she was arrested. Amber Fairchild also said her mother was involved in an online relationship with a man from England who had sent her thousands of dollars. The prosecutor said that Elisa failed to show up at other court dates and other charges, which included traffic violations and communicating threats, so Elisa's attorney attempted to lower her bond. Elisa's aunt, named Buzzy, so odd name, told her that Zara died after being sick for 2 weeks, and both parents dismembered her and hid the remains. Elisa's aunt said, "She's been sick 2 weeks before she died. When they found her, I guess they didn't know what to do. They just went wild." However, Elisa said that Adam was the one that dismembered his own daughter's body after she had died. They both hid her remains. Elisa also told police that Zara died on September 24th, yet she not reported missing until October 9th. Supposedly this man named Eric, he was the owner of Serial Killers Inc., actually wrote Elisa in jail, and she wrote back to him sharing some information. Supposedly Elisa admitted, "We really didn't kill her, but what he did after the fact is kind of horrifying. It makes me scared of him." Elisa told her attorney that Zara's prosthetic leg was left in a dumpster that she and Adam had disposed of at Fox Ridge Apartments in Hickory. And later October, that leg was found off a road in Caldwell County, a few miles from a former residence of Elisa's. The Hickory Police Department were able to match the serial number of the prosthetic leg with Zara's medical records they obtained from Australia, and this was confirmed that it was Zara's. In November 2010, Elisa started leading police to different areas in Caldwell County to find Zara's scattered remains. Numerous bones of Zara's were found, but Zara's head was not found until some years later. Elisa told police she threw Zara's mattress in a dumpster, and police confirmed the mattress fitting the description was found in a landfill. Elisa also led the police to another dumpster behind a grocery store in Hudson, where she and Adam dumped a car cover and bed cover, which was used to hide and transport Zara. Elisa told police they would find Zara's body parts in the drain trap of the bathtub, and that plastic gloves that she used would be found in her bathroom. I'm gonna stop right now. I actually watched a video on 60 Minutes Australia, but it was not this graphic and detailed. This actually makes tears kind of come up to my eyes because this is such a heinous thing that you could do to a 10-year-old little girl that did nothing to you, that just wanted to live. She already beat death twice, and you just want to snuff her life out because you thought, well, she didn't die then, so I'm gonna kill her now. I watched the interview that 60 Minutes had with Elisa, a prison interview, and she never had to answer any of these hard questions because she didn't go to trial. She took a cop-out, she took a plea deal. And 60 Minutes was trying to ask her questions, and you should have seen her face. She was just really rigid, and she was just looking dead straight on, and her eyes were like crazy woman eyes, like she was on purpose, like making her eyes big, trying not to give any type of emotion in her face or anything. And she kept lying. Dude, you've already been convicted of murder and you're down for 18 years plus 10 years because of other crimes that you committed, drug-related crimes. So she won't get out of prison until she's like 70. So why not tell the truth? Why keep lying? It's fucking sick. Let me go ahead and get back to this. Elisa's past marriages. She was actually married 7 times. At times, she was married to 2 or 3 men concurrently, having failed to divorce before remarrying. Prior to marrying Adam, Elisa had married 3 men within 3 years. In January 2011, it was reported that Elisa was charged with bigamy after it was confirmed that she was still married to Aaron Young when she wed Adam Baker. This is disgusting, y'all. Okay, here it comes. Elisa had introduced Aaron Young to Adam, claiming that Aaron was her brother. She introduced Aaron to Adam. Aaron is her husband. Adam is her second husband as her brother. Why? It doesn't make sense. Let's keep going. Let's keep reading. Elisa kept in frequent contact with previous husband Aaron Young, and they both visited on imvu.com website on September 22nd. 2 days before the day on which Elisa claimed Zara died. A police investigated the claim of a woman who used the same social networking site as the Bakers that she had a conversation with both of the Bakers about doing a murder with chainsaws. Accusations against 2 men related to Elisa's previous husband, Aaron Young, alleged that Zara was raped and may have been hit on the head, causing her death. The 2 cousins, James Young and Timothy Young, was both investigated by police for the allegations. Both men passed polygraph tests and were not charged. Timothy Young was alleged to have had a sexual relationship with Elisa, and the 2 had taken illicit drugs together. Since no cause of death could be determined, Zara's death was ruled an undetermined violent homicide. Allegedly, Elisa told the police that both she and Adam disposed of Zara's remains. But according to cell phone towers, Elisa was in the area where Zara's remains were found, but Adam was not. Investigators believe that Elisa Baker killed and dismembered Zara on September 24, 2010, and disposed of her remains in the following day. Elisa was indicted by a grand jury for second-degree murder with aggravating circumstances on February 22, 2011. The 5 aggravating circumstances were cited as: Elisa had a history of physical, verbal, and psychological abuse of the children. She desecrated Zara's body to hinder the murder investigation and prosecution. Zara was young and physically infirm and handicapped. Elisa Baker took advantage of a position of trust. Elisa would have a first-degree murder charge if she had not led law enforcement to Zara's remains. Adam has denied any involvement in Zara's death, and the police have not found any credible evidence to suggest that she had any involvement in her death or the charge with the murder. In April 2011, Adam Baker was charged with identity theft and obtaining property under false pretenses. It was claimed that Adam used the identity of a man by the name of James Starbuck and his social security number to get power connected to the apartment. James Starbuck is the husband of Elisa's daughter, Brittany Starbuck. Adam was previously charged with passing worthless checks, communicating threats, assault with a deadly weapon, and failure to return property. With these new charges, Adam was ordered not to leave North Carolina without notifying the district attorney's office. He also was ordered to wear an electronic monitoring device on his ankle and was ordered to meet with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement once a week. Adam was hoping to return to Australia shortly. Elisa Baker was also charged with identity theft and obtaining property under false pretenses in February 2011. It was reported that Elisa had used her daughter Brittany Starbuck's personal information to obtain telephone and utility service at one of the residences in Caldwell County. She pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts of identity theft in May 2011. In May of 2011, Elisa was indicted with 7 drug counts for the time period of May 2006 through October 2010. Elisa, who had used different addresses in both counties of North Carolina, had distributed oxycodone, hydrocodone, all prescription drugs for pain and anxiety. Elisa was charged with possessing, distributing, and conspiring to distribute prescription drugs. She is facing up to 20 years in prison for each drug charge. Now this is what I think about all this mess. Like I said, Zara was only 10. Yes, she was handicapped. I feel really horrible that they took advantage. Especially Elisa took advantage of this little girl. I feel like maybe Adam did have something to do with it because they found remains in 2 of their vehicles. I thought that was odd. This is my opinion. This is my conspiracy theory. Whatever. Maybe one of them took some body parts of Zara and the other one took the other body parts of Zara. They split up and then hid the different body parts. Like they split up to cover more ground. I just pray that this little girl didn't feel any pain. I hope that she had a merciful, quick, painless death. No one knows though. It's still a mystery. Her dad, Adam, was actually on the 60 Minutes interview, and he looked like a dad that was heartbroken. So I am not sure if he had anything to do with it, but he might had. Her stepmom was adamant on the interview that he did have something to do with it. When the host was asking her, okay, come on, tell us the truth, what happened, blah, blah, blah. She kept saying the same story over and over. What she said that happened was that the afternoon that Zara died, she left the house to go shopping. And she did not return until later that afternoon. She saw Zara on her bed. And she walked in. And she said, Zara, are you awake? Walked in again. Zara, no response. And then she called 911 to tell them that she was unresponsive. But how is that possible? When Zara was cut up and dismembered, that was the whole point. Her story made no sense at all. None whatsoever. She was just digging herself a deeper and deeper hole. I feel so sad for the rest of Zara's family that had the loss of her. When the 60-minute host asked her if she had any remorse, she said yes. And she goes, well, what remorse are you feeling? And she said that she's gone. I miss her. And the host says, really? Do you really miss her? Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and tell you bye. I hope y'all have a very good weekend. I also have a podcast. It's named Horror with Curious Raven. I do have all of these true crime videos uploaded to there if you wanted to have true crime marathon. Leave a good review and that will help my podcast out. It's on Spotify and BeanPod. I also have a Patreon called Corvus Corex. You can come join the flock. All these links will be down below in this video. If you have any scary stories or any weird and creepy encounters, I do have a subreddit. You can go post there and give me some subscriber stories I can read. And that link will be down below as well. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I will see y'all next Friday for another true crime video. Until then, remember, it's scary out there.